So this is a thing that I thought that I had this week about silly season, because we're going, oh, why didn't we get rid of why are these teams getting rid of these certain drivers? And I just had this thought, which is every team's looking for the next big thing, and if you're not quite working the magic, you're probably not going to keep your seat. So that's basically what I've written is I've said teams are always trying to find the next big thing, and if their driver isn't showing that potential for greatness, then the teams will roll the dice again, and that's what Brad Jones Racing does, and that's what plenty of teams do. They know that SCT got rid of Jackson Evans because they want to get those big results, and if Jackson Evans was the bee's knees and was super talented, he might have been closer to where they were expecting to be. So they're gonna have another go, and they're gonna have a big crack next year. They're gonna sign this sign this driver that no one really gave a rat's about, and they're gonna put him in arguably the best machine in the field, and that's what they're banking on. You know, Jackson Walls is gonna have the opportunity to qualify in the top 10 every round. So that's and yeah, he's just gonna have to sink or swim. So there's that. Brad Jones obviously going to be shrinking down to 3 cars. What else have we got? Both Premier cars have been confirmed. So Jaden Ojeda and Declan Fraser have been confirmed at Premier. I don't know. This might have been already announced before, like last stream. By last stream, probably was. I think it was announced on like 13th or something. And I think there's a few approaches to this. So there's the Roland Dane methodology, and then there's the Peter Xiberras methodology, where Roland Dane is probably saying, roll the dice again, all right, because the drivers sort of need to be able to carry the team, all right. And if they're not able to do that, they're probably not going to be able to win you championships when you have a bad weekend when you've got fast cars. So that's probably part of it. So they've gone, and what is it? I think then there's Peter Xiberras' approach, which Pete likes to give drivers opportunities who haven't had a fair go. He's a full believer in a fair go. Richie Stanaway has had a lot of chances, and they've probably felt like he was just not going to ripen quick enough. And racing's a fast world. You can't. We saw when we were looking at the Garth Tander statistics. Garth Tander got on top of things quick. Rick Kelly took a lot longer. Garth was basically able to win the championship from 2005 onwards. Rick had to wait for it to fall on his lap. And so that's a similar difference between Jimmy Golding and Richie Stanaway. Maybe Jimmy Golding isn't this incredibly great driver, and maybe Richie isn't either. So Peter Xiberras has gone, how come no one's had a go with Jaden Ojeda? Let's put him in. He's done a great job with everything he's done. Let's give him a real crack. Come and drive for my team, and if you don't perform, then you're out. And then do the same thing with Declan Fraser. Decker, you didn't have a great run your first time. You've done a great job at Brad Jones Racing with Andre Heimgartner. Come and drive for my team and prove everyone wrong. That's Peter Xiberras' approach. When he signed Chris Pither and Gary Jacobson for 2022, everyone was a little bit like, oh, really? Why those guys? And so the first thing he did was he said, I want to give these guys a chance that they haven't had. He gave Gary Jacobson a car that could get in the top 10 at Albert Park, and that's what he did. That car was good enough for better results, and he knew it. So he sacked Gary Jacobson and he signed Jimmy Golding, who was able to qualify better and race better. and that relationship has obviously run its course. Jimmy wants to take control of his own destiny, and fair enough to him. Chris Pither hadn't been given a fair go since his 2016 season with Super Black at Tickford, where he got a pole position and got what was it? He got a couple top tens, and so and then he driven for Team Sydney in 2020, where he's driving the slowest car in the field, doing his best. And then Pete's come in, upgraded the hell out of the cars. Chris obviously brought a big bag of cash, and I think he finished every single race in 2022, but he was nowhere near as fast as Gary Jacobson or Jimmy Golding. And so at the end of that season, they were like, well, we want another higher caliber driver, so they got Tim Slade. You've got to keep on rolling the dice, and that's what Roland Dane did at Triple A. 2003, he had Dean Canto and Paul Radisich. Dean Canto, he felt like just wasn't quite performing well enough, and they wanted someone with a bit of fire, so they got Max Wilson, who had been pretty damn good where in other teams that he'd been at. And they kept Paul Radisich, who had brought Roland to Australia and got him connected with Briggs Motorsport, and got that deal done. And Roland felt like they just weren't quite getting the results. And so we're talking to Craig Lowndes. Craig Lowndes was one of the best drivers in the field at the time. So they signed him. They're like, if you want to win races, sign Craig Lowndes because he is so ready for a fast, consistent car. And they had fast cars, and they got the consistency worked out. They gave him a car that could come second in the championship from where they were in 2004. They were nowhere in the championship. Too many reliability issues, crashes, all sorts. They just kept rolling the dice, you know. They kept changing drivers every year. Got rid of Dean Canto, put Max Wilson in. Got rid of Max Wilson and Paul Radisich. Put Craig Lowndes and Steve Ellery in. Get rid of Steve Ellery. Put Jamie Whincup in. Found them. You got to keep rolling the dice. That's the Roland Dane methodology. And obviously it worked, because if you find the right guy, it will be magic. Obviously, you got to have good machinery. And that's another whole thing. Like, does Premier actually have the engineering base to make those cars do the things they need to do? And this weekend they had the pace at Gold Coast, but they just weren't able to capitalize on it because the things just kept going wrong. I think something happened with Jimmy in the first race, something happened with Richie in today's race, but they qualified cars in the top 10, so that did the job. So that's why I don't think it's completely crazy what's going on at Premier. There is a method in the madness. The Roland Dane approach and the Peter Xiberras approach. Roland says, roll the dice again. And Pete says, what about this guy? What about that guy? They haven't been given a fair shot. Give them a fair shot. So that's why we're getting Decker and Juice in 2026, a Premier.